College football has never had more gambling money surrounded than it does today. From sportsbook-sponsored broadcasts to letting fans wager on nearly anything in the sporting event. But while everyone talks about the money being made from outrageous bets, almost nobody is talking about how this is affecting the players. Over the past few years, we've seen athletes suspended, careers being ended, and investigations into coaching staffs. And the Brendan Sorsby story might be the clearest example yet of this growing crisis. I think all of us college football fans have heard about the Brendan Sorsby story. Sorsby, the former Cincinnati and Indiana quarterback who was set to play for Texas Tech in 2026, was caught making thousands of online bets on a variety of sports via a gambling app. Sorsby checked into a treatment program once this news came out, and he decided to leave college football before taking a snap at Texas Tech. Where just recently, court documents came out saying that Sorsby placed no less than 40 wagers on Indiana football while he was a member of the team, and tallied no less than $90,000 in wagers over a 4-year period. The NCAA has a strict policy on players not betting on college or professional sports, with punishments ranging from the loss of half a season to a permanent loss of college eligibility in all sports. Despite all of that, a judge in Texas did actually clear Sorsby to play for the fall of 2026 despite being declared ineligible by the NCAA. He would just have to serve a 2-game suspension to start the season. This sent shockwaves across the sport, with a handful of teams saying they would not schedule future games against Texas Tech because of the decision. Now, none of that really matters since Sorsby stepped away on his own, but it could have gotten ugly if he did play. Now, the NCAA is even investigating Cincinnati as to whether or not the Bearcats staff knew that Sorsby had a gambling issue while he was a member of the program. If the Cincinnati coaching staff was aware of Sorsby's gambling habits and continued to start him, they could face serious consequences. So just a crazy story altogether, because the Sorsby story isn't the beginning of this problem. It might have just been the first time people are paying attention to it. May 2018. This is the moment everything changed. That was the month when the Supreme Court struck down a 1992 federal law that prohibited betting on sports in most states. Fast forward to 2026, and virtually every state has access to sports betting. Whether it's daily fantasy sports, an actual sports book, or going to your local casino to bet, millions of Americans can now gamble on sports with just a few taps on their phone. Heck, I was just watching UFC 250, and I think there were at least 2 sportsbook ads during every commercial break. Sports betting has become just impossible to avoid. And who feels this the most? The people we rarely think about. The players themselves, the athletes we are actually betting on. Think about it. Millions of dollars are being wagered every Saturday on 18, 19, and 20-year-old college athletes. Every outcome of the game has real money riding on it for someone. When that happens, the pressure doesn't stay on the sports books. It follows the players onto social media and sometimes into their own lives, such as Brendan Sorsby. They're watching the same sportsbook commercials as everyone else, scrolling past betting promotions on social media, and hearing conversations about odds every game day. But unlike the average fan, NCAA athletes aren't allowed to participate. That creates a difficult environment, especially for college kids who are constantly being exposed to something they're prohibited from doing. Not to mention the newfound NIL money that many of these players are also getting. And because of that, the Brendan Sorsby story isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a much larger trend. In 2025, the NCAA caught 6 former men's college basketball players at 3 schools who participated in gambling schemes that included game manipulation and sharing information. Last year as well, Texas football even self-reported 2 players where one was required to donate winnings to charity and the other left the program after needing help with his wager debts. These aren't just random stories happening across college sports. They're evidence of a system where gambling has become more accessible than ever. But this is where the story gets more ironic, because college football and sports in general have embraced sports betting almost everywhere you look. Pre-game shows now dedicate entire segments to analysts picking against the spread instead of just predicting who will win. ESPN even launched ESPN Bet Live, a network and sportsbook partnership centered around betting content, now taken off the air. During live broadcasts, viewers are shown updated betting lines and live odds throughout the game. And it's not just television. Conferences themselves have explored ways to profit from the sports betting industry. In 2025, the ACC considered a sports betting partnership, with Commissioner Jim Phillips saying, "It's like any category. You look at it where you may be able to monetize your operation." Gambling has gone from something that existed outside the game to something woven directly into the college football experience, or essentially becoming part of the business. And as the sport has embraced sports betting, the consequences have become impossible to ignore. I mentioned Brendan Sorsby and the Texas football players earlier, but they're far from the only cases. In 2023, more than 30 athletes from Iowa and Iowa State were implicated in a sports betting investigation, with 16 facing criminal charges. The NCAA has responded by enforcing some of the strictest gambling rules. Revised 2023 NCAA guidelines outline any players who bet on games involving their own school can lose their eligibility permanently. Even betting on their own sport at another school can cost them half a season. And while penalties for other pro sports bets vary depending on how much was wagered, the message is clear. The NCAA views gambling violations as one of the biggest threats to the integrity of college sports. So if college football is going to continue to embrace sports betting as part of its business, how does it better protect the athletes at the center of it? Because beyond the investigations and suspensions, there's also another side to the story that often gets overlooked. Now, it's easy to look at stories like Brendan Sorsby's and only see the NCAA violations, but behind every headline is a human. For some, gambling becomes more than just breaking NCAA rules, it becomes an addiction. College is already a time when many young adults are exposed to new freedoms, new pressures, and new risks. And by the time it's discovered, the damage has already often been done. Thousands of dollars can be lost just trying to chase the next win. Some athletes lose eligibility, others just leave the sport, and some end up seeking treatment long before they've even got their college degree. College football has changed drastically in the sense of sports betting, but the question now is whether the support systems for athletes have changed just as quickly. Will these gambling-related cases become more common? Or is Brendan Sorby's story simply the first warning sign of a much larger problem? Because as sports betting continues to become a bigger part of college football, the sport will have to figure out how to balance the money it brings in with the responsibility it has to protect the athletes who make it possible.
If you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, the subscribe button, and hitting the bell notifications. Thank you.